Why does she ignore you when you care too much? That question has crossed your mind, hasn't it? You dedicate yourself, show genuine interest, are always there, but it seems the more you care, the more distant she becomes. It's as if an invisible force pushes you away every time you try to get closer. You send affectionate messages and receive short replies. You suggest dates and hear excuses. You express your feelings and find only indifference. And the most frustrating part is that you see other men who seemingly care less getting the attention you so desperately desire. But what if I told you there's a hidden logic behind this seemingly contradictory behavior? And what if I revealed that the excessive importance you give is sabotaging your chances before you even realize it? This isn't just another generic piece of advice about emotional games. It's a deep dive into the psychology of attraction and how your current behavior is creating the opposite outcome of what you desire. Get ready to understand why she ignores you when you care too much, and more importantly, how to reverse this situation without becoming cold or manipulative. What you're about to discover could completely change the way you relate. First, let's face the raw, unvarnished truth about the paradox of excessive availability. You believe that showing how much you care is the right way to win someone over. After all, we were taught that love conquers all, that persistence is a virtue, that if you show her enough how special she is, she'll eventually recognize your worth. But here's the fundamental problem with that approach. When you're constantly available, when you reply to texts in seconds, when you cancel your plans to be with her, when you demonstrate that your life revolves around hers, you're communicating something very different from what you imagine. You're not saying, "I value you." You're saying, "I don't value myself." Think about it for a moment. What has value in our lives? That which is scarce, that which requires effort to obtain, that which isn't always available. The sun is valued because it sets. The weekend is special because it ends. Vacations are precious because they're limited. When you become omnipresent in her life, when you're always there, always available, always ready, you remove the element of scarcity. You become predictable. And predictability is the death knell of attraction. Have you ever noticed how she responds differently when you take a little longer to reply? How she seems more interested when you have other commitments? That's no coincidence. It's human nature in action. We value what can slip through our fingers. We pursue what flees. We desire what we can't fully have. And when you hand yourself over on a silver platter, when you make yourself completely available, you remove that fundamental element from the dynamic of attraction. But I'm not telling you to become a jerk or play emotional games. I'm talking about something much deeper. I'm talking about having your own life, having your own interests, having your own goals that don't depend on her. When you have that, limited availability arises naturally. It's not a strategy, it's a consequence of living a full life. Now, let's move on to the second crucial point you need to understand. The invisible emotional pressure you're creating without realizing it. Every time you show excessive importance, you're putting a weight on her shoulders. It's as if you're saying, "Look how much I care, now you have an obligation to reciprocate." This pressure, even if subtle, is felt, and the natural reaction to any kind of pressure is resistance. Imagine you're in a store, and the salesperson follows you everywhere, asking every 30 seconds if you need help, showing product after product, insisting you try it on, that you buy it. How do you feel? Uncomfortable, right? Wanting to get out of there as fast as possible. That's exactly what happens when you show excessive importance. You become the persistent salesperson of the emotional store. She feels she needs to match a level of emotional investment she doesn't have yet. She feels that any display of interest on her part will be interpreted as a green light for you to intensify even more. She feels she's being put on a pedestal before she's even done anything to deserve it. And that's suffocating. It's heavy. It's too much responsibility too soon. The interesting thing is, the more you try not to seem needy but continue acting needy, the worse it gets. She perceives the incongruity. She senses there's something forced, something unnatural in your behavior. You say it's fine when she cancels, but she knows it's not. You pretend you have other plans, but she knows you'd cancel everything for her. This lack of authenticity is instantly detected and further diminishes your attractiveness. Please understand that I'm not saying caring is bad. Caring is human. It's beautiful. It's necessary. The problem is the excess. The problem is when caring for her becomes more important than caring for yourself. The problem is when her opinion of you becomes more important than your own opinion of yourself. The problem is when her presence in your life becomes more important than your own presence in your life. Third, let's talk about the concept of disproportionate emotional investment and how it's sabotaging your interactions. There's an unwritten rule in human relationships. Whoever invests more emotionally has less power in the relationship. I'm not talking about power in the sense of control or manipulation. I'm talking about power in the sense of natural influence, the ability to generate attraction, to create a healthy dynamic. When you're investing 100% and she's investing 20%, you've created an imbalance. And this imbalance has consequences. First, it communicates that you don't have other options. If you did, you wouldn't be investing so much in someone who clearly isn't at the same level of interest. Second, it removes the challenge. She doesn't need to do anything to maintain your interest. It's already guaranteed. Third, it creates a dynamic where she's always emotionally indebted to you, which generates discomfort and distance. Think about how you feel when someone gives you a very expensive gift and you can't reciprocate in kind. Uncomfortable, right? That's exactly what happens on an emotional level when you invest too much too soon. She feels indebted. And nobody likes to feel indebted. The natural reaction is to distance yourself from the source of that discomfort. But here's the part that will blow your mind. The less you invest at the beginning, the more space she has to invest. It's like a seesaw. When you're too heavy on one side, there's no room for movement on the other side. But when you maintain a balance, when you invest proportionally to what you receive, you create space for her to come to you. This doesn't mean being calculating. It doesn't mean counting how many texts you sent versus how many you received. It means having emotional awareness. It means realizing when you're giving much more than you're receiving and adjusting naturally. It means having the emotional maturity to understand that healthy relationships are built on reciprocity, not on unilateral demonstrations of affection. And here's a crucial point I need you to engrave in your mind. Attraction isn't a rational choice. She's not going to sit down, make a pros and cons list, and decide to like you because you care too much. Attraction is an involuntary emotional response to certain psychological triggers. And excessive availability and disproportionate investment are anti-triggers. They turn off attraction instead of turning it on. If you've been following along and are gaining insights into your own behavior, give this video a thumbs up. Share in the comments when you realized you were caring too much and how it affected your relationships. Your experience can help other men who are going through the same situation. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next content that will transform the way you relate. Fourth, we need to talk about the dynamic of the pursuer and the pursued and how you're putting yourself in the wrong role. In every romantic interaction, there's a subtle dance of approach and withdrawal. When this dance is balanced, both parties move in harmony, sometimes approaching, sometimes creating space. But when you care too much, you break that dance, you become the eternal pursuer, and she consequently becomes the eternally pursued. The problem with this dynamic is that it's unsustainable and unattractive. Nobody wants to feel like they're being chased. The feeling of being pursued activates psychological defense mechanisms, fight or flight. And since she probably doesn't want to fight you, the option that remains is to flee. Every excessive message, every exaggerated display of affection, every desperate attempt to get attention is another step in the chase that pushes her away. But here's the plot twist that will change your perspective. When you stop pursuing, when you create space, when you allow her to feel your absence, something magical happens. The role of pursuer becomes vacant, and human nature abhors a vacuum. If you're not pursuing, her natural impulse is to approach, to understand what has changed. Suddenly, she's the one initiating conversations. She's the one suggesting dates. She's the one showing interest. This isn't manipulation. It's simply understanding and working with human psychology instead of against it. When you're always present, always available, always showing interest, you remove her need to make any effort. Why would she invest energy in someone who's already guaranteed? Why would she show interest in someone who clearly isn't going anywhere? Now, let me be brutally honest with you about something nobody wants to admit. Part of the reason you care so much, why you invest so much, is fear. Fear of losing her. Fear that if you don't show enough, she'll find someone else. Fear that if you're not always present, she'll forget about you. But this fear is creating exactly what you dread. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you fear losing her, the more needy behaviors you exhibit. The more needy behaviors you exhibit, the less attractive you become. The less attractive you become, the greater the chances of actually losing her. It's a vicious cycle that feeds on your own fear. The courage you need to develop isn't the courage to declare your feelings or make grand gestures. It's the courage to give space. It's the courage not to reply immediately. It's the courage to have your own plans and stick to them. It's the courage to let her miss you. It's the courage to risk that she might not come back, knowing that if she doesn't, she was never yours to begin with. And this brings us to the fifth and perhaps most important point: the need to develop a life of your own that is attractive independently of her. When you care too much, it's usually because you don't have anything else significant going on in your life. She has become your main project, your hobby, your mission, your purpose, and that's a burden no one should have to carry. Imagine the pressure of being the center of someone's universe, of knowing that person's happiness depends on you, of feeling that every action of yours has the power to make or break someone's day. It's too much responsibility, it's too much pressure, and it's profoundly unattractive because it communicates that you don't have anything more important going on in your life. Attractive men, men who naturally generate interest, are men with purpose. They are men with their own passions. They are men with goals that transcend gaining a woman's approval. They have careers that challenge them, hobbies they're passionate about, friendships that nourish them, dreams that motivate them. And when a woman enters their lives, she becomes a wonderful complement, not the main course. This shift in perspective is revolutionary. When you have a full life, when you have your own interests, when you have your own worth independent of her, everything changes. You no longer need to care too much because you have other sources of satisfaction. You no longer need to pursue because you have other places to direct your energy. You no longer need to demonstrate value because your value is evident in the life you've built. And here's the ultimate irony. The less you need her, the more she'll want you. The more complete you are on your own, the more she'll want to be a part of your life. The more you care about yourself, the more she'll care about you. It's counterintuitive. It's the opposite of what we were taught, but it's the reality of how attraction works. Let me give you some practical examples of how this works in real life. Instead of canceling your plans to see her, you stick to your commitments and suggest another time. Instead of replying to texts instantly, you reply when it's convenient for you. Instead of always being available to go out, you have a full schedule with activities that interest you. Instead of making her the center of your conversations with friends, you have other stories to tell. This isn't being a jerk, this is having a life. And having a life is sexy. Having your own interests is attractive. Having boundaries is respectable. Having self-worth is irresistible. When you develop these qualities, when you become a man with his own purpose, the dynamic changes completely. Suddenly, she's the one trying to be a part of your life, not the other way around. But here comes the challenge. Developing this life of your own requires work. It requires stepping out of your comfort zone. It requires stopping using her as an excuse not to pursue your own dreams. It requires admitting that you've been using the excessive importance you give her as a way to avoid working on yourself. It's easier to be obsessed with someone than to face your own fears and limitations. It's easier to invest all your emotional energy into trying to win someone over than to invest that energy into becoming someone worthy of being won over. It's easier to blame her for not recognizing your worth than to admit that you need to develop more worth. But if you've made it this far in this video, if you're absorbing these difficult truths, you've already taken the first step. Recognizing the problem is half the solution. Now comes the action part. Now comes the part where you stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the architect of your own life. First practical step: identify 3 areas of your life that you've neglected while you were obsessed with her. It could be your physical fitness, it could be your career, it could be your hobbies, it could be your friendships. Choose 3 and commit to investing in them over the next 30 days, not as a strategy to win her over, but as a strategy to win yourself over. Second practical step: establish clear communication boundaries. I'm not telling you to ignore her. I'm telling you to have times when you're unavailable, when your phone is on silent, when you're focused on other things. This isn't a game, it's mental health. It's demonstrating that your life doesn't revolve around her availability. Third practical step: develop what I call an abundance mindset. Stop acting as if she's the only woman in the world. Stop acting as if this is your only chance to be happy. When you operate from a place of scarcity, you cling. When you operate from a place of abundance, you flow. And flow is infinitely more attractive than desperation. Fourth practical step. Learn to read the signs of genuine interest versus politeness. Often you're interpreting politeness as interest and investing heavily in someone who's just being kind. Genuine interest is consistent. It's reciprocal. It's growing. If you're always initiating, always investing, always putting in effort, you're probably confusing politeness with attraction. Fifth practical step. Develop the art of strategically withdrawing. When you realize you're investing too much, pull back a little, not as punishment, not as manipulation, but as self-care. As a way to rebalance the dynamic, as an opportunity to give her space to come to you. And here's the final truth you need to understand. Maybe she'll never come around. Maybe when you stop caring so much, when you develop your own life, when you become the best version of yourself, she won't show interest. And you know what? That's okay. Because in the process, you will have gained something much more valuable than her attention. You will have gained yourself. You will have developed a life worth living regardless of who is or isn't by your side. You will have developed the confidence that comes from knowing your own worth. You will have developed the emotional maturity to understand that you don't need anyone to be complete. And ironically, these are precisely the qualities that make a man truly attractive. If this content resonated with you, if you recognized your own patterns in these words, it's time to act. Share this video with that friend who needs to hear these truths. Leave in the comments what your main insight was. And most importantly, commit publicly to a specific change you're going to make starting today. Transformation begins with awareness, but it's only completed with action. You now have the awareness. The question is, will you have the courage to act? To stop caring too much about those who don't show reciprocity? To invest in yourself with the same intensity you invest in others? To become the man who attracts naturally instead of the man who desperately pursues? The choice is yours. The life is yours. The power has always been in your hands. You were just too busy caring about her to realize it. But now you know. And knowing is the first step to change. The rest is up to you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on notifications. And prepare for the journey of becoming the man you were born to be. Because when you become that man, the question is no longer why she ignores you. The question becomes, who is worthy of your attention? And that, my friend, is a position of power that changes everything.